How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to 2A News Now. And if you're new to the channel, my name is Troy. And here at 2A News Now, you get your Second Amendment news straightforward and to the point, with no BS added in. I was actually shocked when I heard about this. The ATF has argued against gun control in court. The ATF is never going to be a friend to gun owners. As a general rule, we don't like them and they don't like us. It seems like every federal law enforcement agency out there wants more power and more authority. And the ATF hasn't really shown itself to be any different historically, which is why people were shocked by a headline that read, ATF argues about California's demand for ghost gun regulations. The ATF asked a federal judge in California on Tuesday to rule against the state in its suit seeking to compel the federal government to crack down on ghost guns. And for those who might be watching the channel that don't know what a ghost gun is, ghost guns are firearms that can be made at home with parts that can be purchased without background checks or serialization, and according to the plaintiffs, have become the weapon of choice for criminals. California, the Giffords Law Center to Prevent Gun Violence, and others sued the Bureau in 2020, asking, among other things, for the court to order the federal agency to issue rules against 80% receivers and frames, core components of a firearm, that houses or provides a structure for other components of a weapon. The ATF did issue rules on so-called ghost guns, but those rules did not outright ban these types of firearms, nor did they regulate them so extensively they might as well have banned them. And it seems that's what the problem is in California. Though the final rule takes important steps to eliminate ghost gun making kits, meaning where 80% receivers or frames are sold together with essential firearm parts, such as a magazine and a jig to assemble the firearm. The rule still permits the selling of 80% unserialized frames and receivers as standalone items without any background checks or serialization. The plaintiffs say this is their amended complaint. In arguments before, U.S. Senior District Judge Edward Chen, attorneys for the federal government, said it should be granted summary judgment on the plaintiffs' claims because they are unsubstantiated. They have no evidence whether the type of products, which are the subject of this disagreement, are responsible for any of the meaningful injuries about which they complain. And that comes from Jerry Newman, who is arguing for the defendants. Newman said the government wasn't relying on decades of classification letters that describe the difficulty of making weapons that are able to fire projectiles without necessary tools. Now here's the question everybody wants an answer to, is whether the ATF's resistance is actually meaningful resistance because they feel they really have either done they can lawfully do, or all that should be necessary, or because they're supposed to mount some kind of a resistance, even if they don't want to. What we do know, however, is no matter how the ATF defines a receiver, someone will always find a way to offer an incomplete receiver that's just shy of the line in the sand. That's because gun folks are a proudly unforgivable lot that might not break the law, but will bend it until it screams, and delight in the consternations of the anti-gunners. No matter what they do, someone will get around it, then laugh when Giffords, Everytown, or any other gun control group freaks out over it. And people think the ATF also know this. I don't think their opposition is because they know it. I think they have no problem moving the line a little bit further, then keep on doing it until sheet metal requires a background check. I think it's a more pro forma kind of thing, but they're still doing it. When I suppose they could just say, we have no good reasons, Your Honor, or have just done it, so the lawsuit would get dropped. It's definitely not because of some deeply held belief by someone in power at the Bureau. Were you guys shocked too as well when I told you the ATF is arguing against gun control in court? I think it's pretty crazy, but it's got to be some kind of ploy, because it's not like all of a sudden they've turned pro-gun and pro-constitution. They've got something up their sleeve, and we need to find out what that is. And as always, I appreciate everybody's support with the channel. You guys are always crushing it by liking, sharing, and subscribing and hitting those post notifications. And I invite everybody to come back and watch my next video.